Scarlett Rain and I'm here to talk about myself being an innovative practitioner in my specialist subject, ceramics in art and design. In today's blog, I will be explaining why it is important to be innovative and creative when teaching art and design. I'll be providing an example of when I have used innovation in a lesson whilst demonstrating how I have used a model of reflection. In this example, using McKinsey's model of reflection to assess my practice, evaluate what worked and what didn't, and identify opportunities for improvement. The importance of innovation in teaching of art and design. Teaching students to be creative prepares them for life beyond the classroom. An educator's use of innovation in the classroom encourages students to think critically and to explore new ideas. Creativity expert Sir Ken Robinson, in his 2006 TED Talk, argues that creativity is as important as literacy. He urges teachers to inspire creativity in students and says, if you're not prepared to be wrong, you'll never come up with anything original. Suggesting experimentation and innovation aids effective learning. Schools and colleges are too busy focusing on being right.
I believe this passionately that we don't grow into creativity, we grow out of it. Or rather, we get educated out of it. Many highly talented, brilliant, creative people think they're not, because the thing they were good at school wasn't valued or was actually stigmatized.
Tom Markham, who wrote the project-based learning guide, agrees, saying innovation helps students find the passion and resources necessary to design a better life for themselves and others. Creativity can't be taught directly, but learning situations can encourage creativity by providing the opportunities for students to demonstrate their abilities to be creative. Applying skills in new contexts, problem solving, investigating and experimenting to create new understandings. Students need to be provided with opportunities to be creative and innovative, and they'll be best guided in towards this by an innovative teacher. Art is part of the core college curriculum. It is as important as reading, writing, maths and science, precisely because it is an excellent medium to encourage creative thinking. Education in art is increasingly important as the demand for creativity and inventiveness continues to rise. Integrating technology in art and design is essential to the development of arts education. An example of my use of innovation in teaching art. Okay, so teaching innovatively, especially when using technology in an era of budget cuts, is difficult. My classroom doesn't even have an interactive whiteboard, but is not impossible if you improvise. Today's students are engaged, keen and inspired by technology and use it every day on their phones, Xboxes and computers. So incorporating technology into students' art lessons complements the skills learned in more traditional art lessons by developing critical thinking, communication, social and computer skills for solving real problems. Glass points out that classrooms are using text messages to stream answers to questions, which is proving conducive to a collaborative learning environment. This quote sparked an idea which I have used as part of a recent ceramics lesson with my BTEC and UEL students. Recognising that my students were not allowed to use their phones in their usual school lessons and knowing what a loss they felt being parted from the rest of the world for so long, I decided to integrate their love of their phones into my lessons to aid engagement. I'll use Gibbs's model to describe what happened. My students had a ceramics brief on the use of structure, and I wanted to assess all the students and what they have learned from this project. So I decided to use Socrative, which is an advanced e-learning tool, as a way of assessing my students. It's an easy platform for the students to use. As a ceramics department don't have ICT resources, I needed to use something fun and engaging for the students to reflect critically. I wanted to assess their knowledge and to help them revise or recap the information they had been recently taught. It would also give me an understanding of who was learning and who wasn't. Socrative assessments also help me to reflect on what I need to adapt in any part of the lesson and include these improvements in future lessons. Socrative is a great way of assessing students as it empowers the teaching to engage and assess students as learning happens. Through the use of real-time questioning, it's beneficial as it is an instant class online assessment tool that involves the whole class. So knowing all the students had mobile phones and the use of the internet, I decided this was a good route to take. So I produced 19 questions, asking various questions from health and safety in the ceramics department to techniques and processes that they have been using. Whilst writing up the questions, I initially thought they were all measurable and sounded not too difficult as we had covered every question asked in prior lessons. So I then uploaded them onto my mobile device, ready to assess them. I differentiate the assessment and ask the students to work in couples if they haven't brought their mobile phones or that they didn't want to do it on their own. I had 4 couples and 8 individuals taking part. The students were very interested in being able to use their phones in class and were fully engaged in the task. This was developing better than I hoped for. I felt I had accomplished something and hadn't even yet started the assessment quiz. So the questions started and they all took part, answering as appropriate. On my device, the assessment told me what answers each student were getting right and wrong. At first, I felt quite elevated. The assessment was going quite well. All were engaged. I felt like I was doing something right with the assessment as it was a great way of assessing the students. The students gave me verbal feedback that they enjoyed using the resource. They worked hard at answering the questions and there was an element of competition between them as they were answering. All of this gave me a buzz, even though I thought they would enjoy it. My feeling of success was enhanced because they wanted their results straight away, further demonstrating their engagement with the process. When it came to checking the results later, I was a bit deflated on seeing the few questions the majority of the group had answered incorrectly because I realised that it was down to my teaching. What was good about the experience was that I could assess them in a fun way where they felt they weren't under assessment. Odd experience was that there were some parts of the lesson the students hadn't understood because I hadn't planned part of the lesson well enough. I didn't try out the assessment before I used it. They were all getting the same answers right and the same answers wrong. This was down to me. As I reread the questions over and over after the assessment, I realised 2 of the questions were not measurable. One question asked what tool do we use to cut and carve clay. The answer was potter's knife. Half the class answered correctly and the other half answered loop tool. This is also correct as carving clay can be used with a loop tool. In one case, I had structured questions to have more than one correct answer. In the other 2 instances, I clearly hadn't put enough emphasis and repetition on the learning point. I felt I had failed to an extent, but knew this was something I could fix for the next lesson. What else could I have done? I could have assessed the students after the second lesson rather than after the project. This would have given them and myself a more useful approach to their work, as could have used a second week to get them up to speed with what they needed to know. I need to redo the question and state only cutting, not carving, as this confused the students. One question they all got wrong. The question was, at what degrees do we fire stoneware? This was again down to me as I couldn't have talked enough about this topic. I needed to bring the firing of stoneware into my next lesson clearly. All the other questions they mostly got correct and did very well. Since this example, I have used the learnings from my reflection to repeat this approach with a new set of students. I made sure the questions were measurable and that my lesson plan ensured I sufficiently covered all of the required learning outcomes. I feel that Gibbs' reflective model has helped me extensively on how to reflect as a teacher. It has given me a structure on how to reflect, and the reflection is consistent and it helped me reflect over time. So this vlog has covered my use of innovation in a ceramics lesson with the use of Gibbs' model of reflection to improve my teaching. Okay, so thank you very much for watching and listening, and hopefully I'll see you all next time. By providing the opportunities for students. That's not That doesn't sound right for students can to demonstrate. Oh, to demonstrate. Sorry, I should know that in my head. Toto. Art is part of the core right, okay, start again. Art is part of the core college curriculum. It is important. Start again. Right, okay. Art is part of the core college curriculum. Especially when using technology, it is an era of budget cuts, is difficult. I've put is an era, right, start again. An example of my students had a ceramics brief on the use of structure, and I learned. My students had a ceramics brief. That didn't sound right. Okay. In one case, I feel like Gibbs's reflective model has helped me extensively. So this blog has covered my use of innovation. Thanks for watching and listening. That didn't sound right, it didn't ring. So this blog has covered my use of innovation. I've said blog again. So this vlog has covered my use of innovation. Right. Did I say blog? Oh. I feel like Gibbs's reflective model has helped me extensively. I know. I've only had one in about that big. Okay.